they've been a. I know this is a 9/10. This is a 10th of all 10s to be. As a matter of fact, but as you're all familiar, each one of these fine ladies has been in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and the thing that they all have in common is that they have been a heroine of some sort. And it really comes from a time period that
heroin addict.
A heroine as the good guy.
You told the truth, Lisa.
You know, and in the 80s, we didn't have many women role models or strong leading character women for anybody to look up, not just as a girl or man. It was something that I always found unique. We had a monster that had a sense of humor, a sick sense of humor, and then we had a strong female lead that wasn't afraid to fight back. And at least for me personally, that's what's always like made it special to me. And it's really awesome to have you three up here and get to talk to you in this way. I mean, I feel like this is as much for me than you guys. But first off, what is one of the because everybody's going to ask this question. Everybody wants, what's like the standout moment from your career of working with Robert or on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise that stands out for you guys? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
It's what stands out?
You know, I mean, I'm sure you've answered it a million times, but what is it? What do you love most about it?
What comes to mind when you say that? I would have to say my audition comes to mind because when I found out I got the role in the audition, I actually ran downstairs and fell down 2 flights of stairs. So it was really like I was crying and my knees were scraped. And this guy helped me up, and I was like sobbing hysterically of happiness. And he was like, "What's going on?" I went, "I just got the role." You know. So that's mine.
Lisa?
No, it's funny because the audition process was, well, I looked like a cheerleader, you know, I had virgin blonde hair, lots of makeup, well, kind of like now. And so they wouldn't audition me because I didn't look like, you know, Alice, you know. So, but gee, I did know how to act a little, I don't know, well, whatever. Anyway, so I finally got to audition. And I went in with like dirty hair and pale yellow and worse color, like no makeup, you know, and did it. And it was a Friday. I had a callback, I think, and you were in the room. Were you in the room?
Yes, I
and
was.
Rennie and Peter, the DP. So anyway, and 2 days after that, I was getting married. So got married. I was on my honeymoon in Hawaii, and got the call that I got the part of Alice. I had to leave my honeymoon early,
And her husband loved that.
Yeah, oh yeah, and oh, by the way, ex-husband.
Sorry.
The first.
Yeah, he was not happy. It's like, dude, what? This is Nightmare on Elm Street, yes! So anyway, yeah, pretty awesome. Then they started pouring, we had a camera test before we started filming, and they are like, you know, we're gonna have to lose the blonde hair. And so you got to keep your blonde hair, and then Brooke Bees got to wear the wig, and I got to the huge giant wig. I don't know what was growing in that thing. But anyway, we teased about it. And then I got to have a brown, reddish liquid poured on my head every day for 10 weeks.
It doesn't just wash out either, right?
No, it stained my hair.
Yes.
Since then, I've been seeing my hairdresser. No, it's fine. Anyway, it was so worth it.
That's the most memorable.
It's very memorable.
And you both had the opportunity to there was already a couple of the Nightmare on Elm Street films already out, so you already experienced it before you had auditioned for it?
Yeah, I was a fan. We're a fan.
So you already had like the bar had already been set.
The first novel I ever read was Dracula.
Okay.
In 4th grade. I love ghost stories and horror, and of course it's seen Nightmare, the first Nightmare and everything. It was awesome, so yeah.
I'm trying to think. The one thing that comes to my head just right now is when I got to say fuck you to Freddy and I get to punch him in the face. It's actually a night.
In Nightmare 7, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, we're in that big, beautiful dungeon. And you know, my whole time with Freddy, I've never been able to actually kind of come face to face with him and talk to him, you know, and I knew all about Freddy as that character, so when I'm in the dungeon and I have those eels and out the fire and we're just really battling, and then I get to say fuck you, and I just punch him. That was the best moment. Definitely, yeah.
Well, and that goes back to being the strong female character that gets to fight back. And when you, for your original part or role in that series, I mean, did you realize that when you originally read the script? Like, this
Yes,
is,
yeah.
you know, like, this. I mean, I wouldn't think you would know that this was going to change the way people really approach stuff. But I mean, you weren't a scream queen. You weren't just some defenseless. It was.
But our world must have been ready for it because there's a lot of examples of women who are kick-ass, but for some reason that year it just took fire. Like a lot of times you see movies that you're like, oh, that's awfully like Nightmare on Elm Street, but there was just something about America and young girls, I think, especially in young people, where they really embraced it. Before, maybe they didn't embrace it quite as much. So.
Well, just what had to become as mainstream, but it did. After
But
that,
I think it was like a result of, like, my mom was a super women's liber, like she was fighting for equal pay, for equal work and things when I grew up. And so when Nancy came along, like, I just kind of felt like, well, at last, you know, there's some kind of a character that actually represents the new kind of woman that should be treated like men. And I remember, like, people in Oklahoma when I grew up, they thought that idea of women getting the same pay as a man or getting the same equal rights as a man, they thought that was so controversial. Like, people would call my mother like a lesbian and like throw eggs at our house and stuff because she was the only person, I think, that was actually talking about these issues in the 70s. And so I feel like Nancy actually was like the perfect bookend to all of that in my own life. Yeah.
And it just grew. Lisa, when your role came into it, and I read about something where you said that your character really kind of encompassed you from about your middle school age to the end of college, of how you started off fragile and then became a stronger and stronger and stronger person throughout it. And I mean, that was, I think it all goes back, and I wonder how much of that was a design put into it. I mean, obviously it was a horror franchise, but.
I think that Wes and all the directors found girls, young women that could bring it, you know, and it was a new, I have to say there's a lot of parts back in the 80s that were like this, like Quarterback Princess, and like all these, a lot of movies actually were talking about this kind of young woman who has this different kind of sensibility about herself and her strength and poise, and everything was like shifted. I felt everything out of it.
I definitely was grown up. I grew up very shy, daydreamer. I mean, I read the script and like, this is so me as in grade school, junior high. And we moved around a lot, so I was always the new kid, and it was just easier for me to just stay in my room and read, you know, Nancy Drew, 2 in a day. I mean, I was just book obsessed, and it was just felt more comfortable alone daydreaming. You know, I remember there was this boy who lived across next door, really cute, Alan Edick, I'll never forget. And I'd be upstairs in my bedroom, and I'd take a break from reading my book, and I'd see him like playing soccer, and I would be like, oh, Alan, you know, I'll never have you, but I can fantasize, you know, dream about it and stuff. So there were very, very many elements, but perhaps all of us have had this time in our life when we are reclusive and isolate and we go into daydream world. So with the beauty of the script and the story is, you know, there comes a time when you've got to fight, you know, when you have to stand up for your friends, those who care about you, those that you care and love for, and don't be afraid. And then out of that, there comes a strength and a beauty, you know, that blossoms. So I just love the script, the character development, not just for Alice, but for many of the characters. You know, this really seemed to be, you know, and intrinsically, after all these years, we're still like friends. Like you meet hundreds of people doing shows and plays or whatever, and you never see them again. You never see them again. We have we've known each other, Brooke Bees, Troy Newkirk, Rodney Eastman. We're all like really like close. So it's neat. It's
Well, and that's something that you guys never actually shared the screen all together at once, right? I don't believe. No. But the one
Behind
thing
the scenes.
you two definitely have.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
3 of you. But the one thing you definitely have in common is that you all work closely with Robin. And what's your favorite Robert moment that we wouldn't necessarily know or be able to read on IMDb or Wikipedia?
I think my favorite Robert moment is nothing to do really with the movie, except we were in his trailer. No, I'm just kidding. and there were all these. We were shooting the scene, the beach scene, and there were like all these fans out there, like millions and millions of people, you know, and they were knocking over his trailer. So they were like knocking us over. And like Robert was like opening up the top of the trailer going, okay, everybody, don't knock us over. You're gonna knock us over. You're gonna, you know, it's just so funny. That's like, and he was just being so, you know, he's so sweet with them, even though it was like going over. We were tipping. It was funny.
Just relax. I had to have an opportunity to talk to him and interview him, and he is a talker. I'm sure we've all he's got some stories.
He's a real raconteur for sure. And yeah, one of the moments I had. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, he talks.
Yeah,
He talks.
and he knows about everything. I mean, he's a walking encyclopedia, Wikipedia, whatever, you know. And I mean, and he's fascinating. And one of the things I remember so clearly is, okay, so he's getting his makeup on. You know, we're in the makeup trailer. He's getting the, you know, and he doesn't have the sweater on, so he's just got a t-shirt and his makeup. They're finishing it up, right? And he's talking about they're remodeling their house. And he's talking about grout and all of this. And I'm looking at Freddie talking about grout, and it was just like, this is really interesting.
I actually was with Robert this year. We went to Sweden together, and he's a huge star over in Europe, of course, as well. And the funny thing is that he is so down to earth. So my daughter had given me a scarf, not this one, but similar. And we took one day where we just had lunch, and then we went sightseeing, and then we went to a little pub, and then by the end of the night, we ended up back at our hotel, and I realized I had lost my scarf. I'm like, oh, and we had stopped at 10 different places, and I said, oh, Robert, I lost my scarf, and my daughter just gave it to me for Christmas, and the next day, he made a point, come on, Heather, we're going to go look for the scarf. And we went back, and I think he had left something too in one of the, you know, it was like a long day of just walking, and so we went back to this pub we went to, and there was his scarf and my scarf, like on the little pegs, you know, next to the door, like they have in Europe. And he was like much happier than I was that I had found my scarf, and he was so dear. But that's what you just, I mean, obviously you've met Robert, you know how kind he is, but I was so impressed, like he didn't even care about my scarf.
He cared about making me happy.
He did. I mean, he loves all of us. It's really clear. Like, he would do anything for us.
And you get that from the fans too. You know, you guys know from doing conventions.
That's why, who would think that Freddy Krueger would be that guy, you know?
Just
Because
really
it makes
weird,
sense.
you're
I like it takes a really good guy to play a bad guy.
Yeah, I think maybe that's
Yeah,
it.
that's
It takes
that's
a really
great
good guy to
quote.
play a bad guy. And I saw a picture somebody brought me today, or maybe yesterday, and he was so evil in the picture. I mean, I'm literally getting goosebumps. He had a look that I don't know where it came from, because it doesn't occur in his normal life, this look. And that's why, because he's so important to film history, because he just transformed every time he put that makeup on, every time.
That brings up a great question. Did you ever have that moment as Freddy that he gave that sort of feeling to you? Did you ever get that where he's a character that you're just like it was actual fear or seriously uncomfortable, even though you know who's behind it? Have you ever had that moment?
Yeah, I think I did in the boiler room scene where we kind of have a face-off in there. I think in that one in particular, that one kind of got me.
Where you're not
In the boiler room. The
Yeah.
boiler room, he was even scarier.
Yeah, he was scarier in there.
like he fed off of the
That
surroundings.
set was really.
I
Yeah.
think the church, we were doing our battle and whatnot. It's like, I really wanted to hit him.
As actresses, do you feed off of that, or is that almost distracting when you go from trying to portray an emotion on screen or to the camera, and then the real emotion starts coming through?
It works for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
use it
Yeah,
more-
you can usually use it. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that.
Use it, don't lose it.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm just curious. I
Yeah.
don't get it. So that's very good. there's a connection between you two I found interesting. You've both done General Hospital. And were you did? I will admit, I haven't
And that
watched
was my
a lot.
favorite
We've
soap
done a lot of
opera. And it was, it was my favorite soap opera.
Was it?
So,
Jack Wagner.
So were you guys on the series at the same time together?
No, actually, what year were you on it? Do you know?
It was I think it was before Nightmare
Mine
on
too.
Elm
It was my
Street.
first job,
I
so
don't remember what year.
88, I think.
Because 88 is Nightmare 4. You were doing it at the same time.
Yes, I was.
As the movie, right? You were working like crazy. Lisa, do you remember? So it was before Nightmare. Okay, I did Young and Restless and I did General Hospital. Yeah, before Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. Then I got to work with Jack Wagner.
That's doing a soap opera. I mean, it's like it constant. They don't do repeats, right?
it's really amazing for your acting.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
it really teaches you to really memorize and to really know
Yeah, because
things
you
so
have to
fast.
memorize these scenes at night before. It's a new script. You can't
They
believe
show
the
up
amount
and
of
then they rent it all
pages.
out, and then like here's
That
the new one.
happens too, yeah, and but it was a great brain exercise, a great experience on set, and just the pace and all of that. Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, I had like a recurring for 6 months or so.
Me
Yeah.
too.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Excellent,
That's
excellent.
that girl.
Yeah. Well, we about to audience questions. Anybody? Actually, a general hospital question would be good now if you got one or you. Yeah. Okay. I figured we-
This is for Nancy. How was your reaction to the opening scene where Johnny Depp got killed the way he did?
what did I think about that scene when I saw it? Well, it's one scene that I knew was going to be really interesting to watch because I had actually been there on the set the day they did it. And it was a big snafu, as everyone knows now, that the blood was supposed to be dripping down the walls, but instead it went out this open window accidentally. And so Wes was so calm about it. He's like, we'll just make that work in post. Like, we'll just put in some sound effects. But it was a huge disappointment because they wanted it to be so grotesque with the blood just dripping, but it looked clean as a whistle after the blood all rushed out of the room. So when I saw it, and Wes had put this pushing wind sound, and then there's nothing left of the blood. I mean, it actually was way better than the bloody ceiling because we'd already kind of seen that with Tina's shot, right? Her room was coated with blood, and so it was just a great example of when you're working on a low budget, that a lot of the brilliance of it comes from people continuing to use their imagination to try to, fix up boobies that happen, And there's a lot of little boobies in the movie actually that end up being really scary, like the big armed guy walking down the alleyway, that didn't really work like they had planned, and so, but they were like, whatever, that's what we get, and they made it work. So that's like the fun part of the horror movies was. And I love that scene. It's so mysterious, right? And funny. So funny that watching this Nude America. I love that. It's my favorite line. Watching Miss Nude America. Yeah, I can hear you.
This is for Heather too. I just wanted to say that I love New Nightmare. I think that it's a highly underrated movie, not even just as a horror movie, but as a movie in general. So I wanted to ask you 2 questions. Did you have any qualms about doing the movie? Were you excited to do it? Did you have any reservations? And 2, you get thrown around a lot in the end of that movie. Did you sustain any injuries, or were you all right in the end?
Yeah, Robert loved torturing me on that one. And I guess he thinks I have no, nerve endings in my hair because he would just pull it so hard, and just whip me around. And luckily I had a stunt woman on that film that also took a lot of brunt of the stunting on that. But I did have a lot of qualms. I don't like the idea of me playing Heather Langenkamp. I never have liked it. I still don't like it because to me, it weakened the story in a way, but maybe not. Maybe it strengthened it. But the story revolved around that, right? So I couldn't really say no. If I had said no, that movie wouldn't have been made, right? So it was so critical to the meta kind of weirdness that Wes wanted to create. But After a while, I got used to it. I did get used to it. But you can't really play yourself because you don't really know what you're like in the real world. So. I think I played a much more boring version of myself, like humorless version of myself. And I don't think I smile like one time in the whole movie, so it's not really that much. I'm a person who's even when they're petrified, like I always have a big smile on my face. Like even if I'm angry with someone, I'm like, I'm mad at you. It drives my husband crazy, so.
I really like that scene that you did in New Nightmare, you know, the one with your husband, when you're telling him that you have a nightmare.
I love that
Give a
scene.
smile there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, when he's getting hurt. And my husband's getting hurt in the dream.
Yeah, it's awesome. That connection right there is really good.
Well, thank you for that.
Anybody else? Let's go over here first.
I have a question for Tuesday. When you took over the role of Kristen from Patricia Arquette, did you want it to be like, you wanted to make your own Kristen, or did you try to work off what she had going?
Well, it was kind of a mixture. Wendy Harlan, the director, wanted me to look at her stuff, you know, and see what she did, and I did. And I kind of saw where there were similarities between us. And then what I really did was just let go of that and just really did my own thing so that I wouldn't, you know, it's hard to take a role over like that and be, you know, exactly like that person. Plus, I think that you need to bring yourself to it. So I think I just really let go of it and was just hoping for the best.
This question's for all of you guys. It's a two-part question. You've been the stars of these movies that have affected people over multiple generations now. Like my son, he's 13, and he's enjoying movies that you guys made before he was even around. So I was just wondering, what's that like to be part of such a legacy that affects people over the generations? And my second part of the question is, when are you guys going to start a group for women who are better looking now than they were 25 years ago?
No, Heather, I'm going to
Heather, why don't you start?
I got to think about the first part. My memory's
Well-
so bad now, I forgot the first part.
No, it's like just